I was younger, after high school, me and my boys would always hang out at my place. I had a nice backyard, I had a pool, and one of the times we invited girls over. There was a girl that came that was my type, and she was newly single. She had blonde hair, she was really pretty, and she obviously came to try and meet some new people, guys like myself. And I was a good looking guy at the time. I pretty much looked identical to now, just with a little bit longer hair, but the biggest thing I lacked was confidence. So when she came, all I managed to do was say hi when she came and bye when she left. It was the easiest layup ever, and I fumbled the bag. She was at my house, coming to meet new people, meet me, and I didn't even act on it and do anything about it. This would happen to me all the time when I was younger. It gave me the worst feelings inside. I would always get feelings of anxiety when I even thought to say anything, and it just always led me feeling very disappointed with myself. I knew I had to change something and I always aspired for more, but I didn't know how I was ever gonna make it happen. So fast forward to Sweden. Years later, I had just gone through a breakup and did 4 months of the best phase of my life. I was doing self-development, I'd taken on reading, meditation, journaling, and after those 4 months, I went to Sweden for the first time as an adult. The first night I got there, I went to the club. And now I came with this renewed sense of confidence. I went out and I started talking to girls, I started talking to everybody there, and having one of the best nights I honestly ever had. There was one girl who was gorgeous, blonde hair, blue eyes, my type to the T, and she really just clung to me. We ended up having a great night. She ended up coming back to the hotel I was staying at, and we slept together. This was one of the first times I really had a true win from going out, meeting girls, and actually sleeping with them. This caused the best feelings that I've ever had with myself, my self-confidence, knowing that I could actually pull some of the hottest girls in the world. This was something that I didn't even think was possible just a few years ago, and here I was doing it, all because I did 4 months of self-development, really focusing on the internal instead of the external. See, at this time, I actually had very little money. I only had about like $1,500 in my checkings account. There was nothing that was crazy about me. My style wasn't that good. It was all the man who I was at that time, the confidence that I exuded, just going out and being my authentic self and going after the things that I wanted. So I stayed in Sweden for 5 weeks, and during that time had a lot of success, pulled a lot of girls, and I headed back to Florida to stay with my family. When I got to Florida, I went to the beach one of these days and I was chilling by myself. I didn't have any friends at the time. I just moved back and didn't know anybody. So I was at the beach hanging out and I saw a girl walk to the concession stand. She was really pretty, once again, blonde. As you'll hear, blonde is my type. She was really good, really nice body, and I instantly wanted to talk to her. See, the last 5 weeks in Sweden, all the cold approaching and all the times when I was talking to girls was pretty much done at the club. And then if I continued the relationship, it was sober, but I'd already gotten to know them a bit. So this was the first time I really had to go out and talk to a girl being sober in a new environment that I wasn't familiar with. And I still had those feelings of anxiety. I remember getting a pit feeling in my stomach, a lot of negative self-limiting beliefs coming to mind, like, oh, I can't go up and talk to her at her towel, it's gonna be weird, she's lying down. All these excuses came to mind and I had this anxiety come over me, but I still proceeded to do it anyway. And I acted with courageousness instead of acting out of fear and doubt, and I went and talked to her. I found out that she was gonna be leaving the next day, so after a brief conversation, I was just like, oh, great, have a nice stay here in Florida. I hope you have a great time. I didn't think anything of it, and I started to leave without getting the snap. She actually came running asking for my snap, and I gave it to her. And then later on, she texted me saying, let's hang out tonight. And I was like, yes, let's go. This actually went so much better than I thought. So we ended up hanging out later that night. But the thing is, I actually had a bunch of anxiety leading up to this hangout too. I still hadn't become very comfortable hanging out with girls sober, doing things like that. We did proceed to drink at the hangout. We hung out at the beach, we had some drinks, and I had still anxiety even at the hangout. It was her and her friend, and we were drinking together. And early on, once I still was in that uncomfortable phase, I was drinking and I just still had that anxiety, and it was a bad mixture, and I almost threw up just because of the anxiety itself. But I held it down, I stayed cool, and then the night ended up getting easier and easier as it went on. I started relaxing into the moment. We ended up going for a swim, and kind of out of like a picture movie scene, I ended up doing some cool, like, we were in the water and I dove down underneath, like kind of swooped her up and kissed her. It sounds cheesy and corny, but it was kind of cool in the moment. And it was just a really cool night. We ended up going back to my place and I ended up sleeping with her. And this whole thing wouldn't have been possible if I didn't act on my intuition at that moment of wanting to go talk to her. If I let those fear and doubts of the excuses why I couldn't do it stop me from doing this in the first place, I would have never had this awesome experience and the ability to build and build on my confidence like I had just done in Sweden. See, many of the times that I've approached girls throughout my phase of building confidence, talking to girls, doing cold approaching, I've been scared and anxious to do so. It wasn't like I just one day flipped a switch and was now all of a sudden this confident guy who could talk to any girl, initiate conversation, and do it in a very smooth, confident way. That wasn't how it worked. I decided that I wanted to be the guy who could talk to any girl. I wanted to be like James Bond. I wanted that sort of life for myself, and I wanted to be smooth like I saw all these guys in the movies, but I just didn't know how to do it. But there was a time when I decided. I had enough of those times, like when I was with my boys hanging out by the pool and I never acted on it, and I had so many of those build up to the point where I was genuinely fed up with my situation and I couldn't take it anymore, and I knew something had to change. And after that breakup, that was the catalyst that caused it, where I kind of just got lucky and fell into this relationship. It wasn't like I'd done anything extraordinary to get it. So I didn't have to go out there and cold approach. She actually came to me. So I still had not really done much to get that relationship. Whereas, when I was out in Sweden, every time I was going to the club by myself, there would still be times of anxiety when I was going out. Like I said, I was a much better place, much more confident, especially when I had a few drinks. It would be a lot easier of a process. But when I was in Florida, came back, I started doing cold approaches at the gym, at the beach, in places that I was really uncomfortable, and I still had that anxiety present. I just decided to do it either way, and that's how I was able to form my new identity. So the moral of this whole story, of all the stories combined, and what I'm trying to teach you in this video, is that you need to decide who you're gonna be, and you need to act in alignment with how that person would act, no matter how you feel. You need to be courageous to embrace this new identity. The new identity I chose was gonna be a guy who talked to all the pretty girls he saw and would sleep with them if it went well. So that's who I wanted to be, and that's exactly who I became. But it wasn't just like I flipped a switch and then that was it. No, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness, a lot of self-limiting beliefs and doubts that I had to overcome in that process. But because I stayed committed to it over a really long period of time, it took me months, if not up to even a year, to really fully embrace this new identity, acting against the way that my prior self would have wanted to do, is just like bitch out and go just not act on it. I had to go and be that person, even though it made me super uncomfortable in the moment. So that is what you need to do, is you need to decide who you want to be and act in alignment with how that person would act. This is the true way that you can change your identity and approach hundreds of girls, as I've now done over the last 3 years. That's truly the only way to do it. If you don't make that identity shift change, it's going to be very hard for you to embrace the new person you want to become and live your dream life. So that is all for this video. I hope I provided you with some valuable insights. If I did, go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'm going to be teaching you on here how to life max, basically get every single stat across the board level up to the max, and this is going to help you pull girls with ease. So if that sounds of interest to you, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I hope this video provides you with a lot of value. Have a great day, everyone.